Hey, it's Katie again. Glad y'all are following my story on this video blog because I want you to be inspired. I also want to invite you again to our Inspire Conference, Festival of Hope, next March 3rd and 4th. Guess who I ran into today? It's Chris Liotta. He's going to be our keynote speaker for the Inspire Conference.
I've got a story of hope myself. My son was diagnosed with osteoma, some small tumors on his spine. This was at a time for me when in ministry some things were picking up. I was doing a little traveling overseas, getting ready to minister for a couple weeks in Liberia. And I was really seeing signs and wonders begin to open up in ministry, healings and different deliverance, things like that. So right in the middle of all that, my son gets diagnosed, and then it's a quick surgery that's going to take place because this was on his spine in December, and I was leaving in November of 2009. And so I left. I went to Liberia. My wife said, go, you're supposed to be there. Ministered there, saw amazing things happen. God was pouring out, and there were people being healed and deliverances, things like that. It was really an amazing time, and I became convinced in my heart, man, my son's gonna be healed. He's not gonna need that surgery. I'm so excited. I went back home on a high with that faith and prayed and prayed and prayed, and my son still needed the surgery. And I gotta tell you, there was ways in which I felt kind of devastated. I felt like the second-rate son, you know. I was that little bit of that angry older brother outside pouting and saying, Lord, why not my son? Why all these things, these miracles elsewhere? And in the midst of that, I really heard the Father's voice say to me, yeah, why not my son? Why not my son? And man, it really hit me to the core. I realized that I was complaining that my son was having to go through a suffering time while I was pouring out for others. And here he was telling me, Chris, my son was going through a suffering time while I was pouring out for others. It really hit me in the core. And that scripture came alive for me, Romans 5:5, that scripture came alive where he said, and hope does not disappoint because the love of God has been shed abroad in our hearts. And I felt the love of God come in, and I began to associate myself with the Father in a way like never before. And that hope and the love of God that anchored that hope in my life, and it's lasted, it stayed with me, it stays with me forever.
So what inspires you? Where do you find hope? Let me know at #InspireKaty.